Welcome to a PreventConnect podcast, where we explore the prevention of violence against women. This is a project of the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
So welcome again. My name is Ashley Klein-Jimenez. I am with PreventConnect in Cal Casa, and you're joining us today for our peer learning forum titled Evaluation Toolkit, Increasing Capacity to Evaluate Sexual Violence Prevention Work. And I am so excited to be joined by Sally Lasky, the Evaluation Coordinator at the National Sexual Violence Resource Center. If you don't know Sally, I'll tell you just a little bit about her. Sally's worked in the violence prevention and victim services field for over 25 years. And Sally began her career at the Sexual Harassment and Rape Prevention Program at the University of New Hampshire and spent over 15 years at the National Sexual Violence Resource Center developing and managing national projects to strengthen trauma-informed sexual assault services and build effective and sustainable multidisciplinary responses to sexual assault. From there, Sally then served as the Chief Executive Officer of the International Association of Forensic Nurses. But now we're so lucky to have her back at NSVRC, where Sally is focusing on program evaluation capacity building for victim service and rape prevention programs. So Sally, we are so excited that you're back at NSVRC and to welcome you to this peer learning forum. How are you today? It's a Friday. Tell us everything.
Excellent. I am first off just honored that so many of you were able to join us on a Friday afternoon. We are really excited that the NSVRC Evaluation Toolkit is now out in the world and that we have this opportunity to discuss it with its core audience, all of you. After the peer learning forum, we hope that you'll be able to describe the basic contents of the Evaluation Toolkit resources, that you will have an increased understanding of how to use the toolkit to build your own or your community's evaluation capacity, and that together we will identify additional evaluation-focused training and technical assistance needs that can help us grow the toolkit and other services that the NSVRC and PreventConnect are here to provide. The Evaluation Toolkit has been a labor of love for many people. I know that folks have been hearing about this toolkit being in development for many, many years. I want to acknowledge Morgan Curtis, the core writer of the toolkit, and the NSVRC's Prevention Director, Jennifer Grove, for advocating for the creation of this resource, and our talented communications and website staff for making the toolkit live and breathe online. But what truly gave the toolkit life was really all of the voices from local programs that responded to our surveys, those of you at health departments and state and territory coalitions that participated in focus groups early on, and those that served as reviewers for the toolkit. All of you and all of these people have helped to give birth to this online resource, and with your assistance, I hope that we can continue to support it and make it grow. We have many stories to tell about our sexual violence prevention work, and this toolkit really aims to help you and your partners do just that. As we jump into the contents of the toolkit, it would be helpful to learn a bit more about each of you.
Yeah, so Sally, so evaluation, I think that people are coming to the table at really, different places. I think over the years, we as a field have really embraced evaluation, and there are many more resources, but still it can be an area where folks don't necessarily feel super confident. So for the folks who are joining us today, I just launched a poll, and so you should see in the bottom left-hand side of your screen a feedback box. And so we'd love to know, what are you coming today feeling like in terms of your experience with evaluation? Do you feel that you're a beginner, you're at the intermediate level, or you're an expert? And so I'm giving folks a few more seconds to choose, and then, because there's still 20, I can tell how many people haven't answered. But I'm going to go ahead and share the results. And hopefully you can see that a lot of people are feeling that they're in that intermediate level with experience. And so Sally, hopefully you can see that we do have folks who feel that they're beginners. We have a couple of folks who feel that they're experts. And then the majority of people are really kind of right there in the middle.
Oh, that is so helpful. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that poll. The toolkit is set up as an online resource with multiple components. With multiple components with both internal and external links to a variety of different resources. What you see right now on the screen, or if you're looking at the PowerPoint handout, is the home page of the Evaluation Toolkit. The home page provides access to each of the 17 sections of the toolkit. Since the toolkit will be evolving and growing over time as we identify and develop additional tools, it's not set up as one document to download, but instead a tool that you can browse with supplemental takeaway materials for downloading. It's our hope that this layout will provide accessible tools no matter what your experience level, although I do think that there are a lot of tools really in line with that intermediate audience of folks that are on the forum today. While the toolkit could be read from start to finish if you choose, since it includes a lot of interactive tools and activities, that could probably take you 3 months to go through it if you choose to look at every single link and resource that's there. But we do hope that people will come back to the toolkit time and time again as multiple needs and different needs develop for them. Our goal is to house practical information specific to the unique needs of sexual violence preventionists and evaluators supporting sexual violence prevention work. If you're looking for resources and support for your journey in evaluating sexual violence prevention work, then you've come to the right place in coming to the Evaluation Toolkit. The toolkit was built to increase your knowledge, to give you access to useful tools, and to point you towards additional resources. The goal of this toolkit is to increase the capacity to implement program evaluation for SV preventionists by providing tools and guidance for both program implementers and for those that support them. So we're really looking to support the entire evaluation process and the ongoing process. The website for the resource is www.nsvrc.org/evaluation-toolkit. And we will include that in the chat throughout. I see that someone asked that, and it is included in the slides. Thank you so much. Because there are so many types of evaluation and methods that can be used, the process of developing and implementing the appropriate evaluation for your specific work can sometimes feel overwhelming. I know I'm often overwhelmed in looking at our specific prevention work. The purpose of this toolkit is really to present you with accessible tools that can help with your implementation process, and also giving reasonable guidance on selecting the most effective methods for the specific evaluation task that you're looking to undertake. Like the Choose Your Own Adventure books that I loved so much as a child and that are seeing a resurgence, and I think even a movie is now coming out on that series. This toolkit is really set up to support you through all of your evaluation adventures. You can come back to it many times and choose a completely different experience based on the type of evaluation that you're looking to implement. What kind of adventure seekers, I'm wondering, have joined us today, Ashley?
I'm wondering that too, and I actually really love that because evaluation is an adventure. And so to think of it in this way, I don't know, I think it can be a lot more exciting and less kind of scary when we think of it as an adventure, and prevention itself is really an adventure. So Sally, I'm wondering, and I know we did just put the link to the resource in the text chat, so I know that there's folks who haven't yet seen it, but it was launched a couple of weeks ago. So I'd love to get a sense if folks have looked at the toolkit already. And so you should see that feedback box pop up again, this time with a yes or a no. And right now it looks like we're pretty split. I'm going to go ahead, oh, it's shared, so everyone can see that already. So there's still folks who haven't answered, but it looks like the majority of folks who are answering are saying that they haven't looked at the toolkit already, but there, 11 folks have already looked at it. So that's nice to have kind of a mix, Sally, of folks who have already looked at it and folks who this is their first time kind of seeing what is available.
Oh, that is excellent. Well, then I'll be asking for those 11 folks to share any highlights that stuck out for them when they were looking at it. What I'm looking to do for the next 45 minutes is really share some highlights for each of the course sections, and then have some opportunity for us to talk about how we can use this tool to support our evaluation capacity building work. So section 1 might be a bit of a review for those of you, of course, that have already started to take a look at the toolkit, but we want to spend a little of time just to highlight each section. The introduction is just that. It provides a description of the goals of the toolkit, a bit about how it's organized, and information on the variety of tools for learning that are included within it. It describes the self-study guides that are available, worksheets that can be downloaded, training tools and activities, videos for inspiration, and also case studies. I am sort of in love with the self-study guides that were created for this tool. It's really my favorite part of the toolkit. All of the guides are downloadable. The introduction, section 1 of the toolkit, provides direct access to the 4 self-study guides, and they're also referenced in relevant sections throughout the toolkit. The plans or guides include curated sets of resources that will lead you through a course of self-study on particular evaluation topics. Each plan includes between 5 to 6 hours of online learning opportunities, as well as in-person training resources. The 4 guides are an introduction to evaluation. There is one on qualitative evaluation. The 3rd guide is on integrated, creative, and participatory evaluation approaches. And the final guide is on evaluation beyond individual and relationship level changes. I'll highlight some of the content for the beginning and the most advanced guides as we chat today. This Introduction to Evaluation Self-Study Plan covers basic information about an array of evaluation topics, including planning, data collection and analysis methods, and data communication, so that you get a sense of the full process involved in program evaluation. It includes videos for users to watch, documents to read, and an online course to take. It is estimated that the plan in complete form can be completed in less than 10 hours. Again, it would depend on which of the specific steps you choose. But this is a great starting place for someone who might be brand new to evaluation. Section 2 of the toolkit provides an overview of evaluation. It defines evaluation and what evaluation can do for prevention workers. I'd love to learn a little bit more about folks' thoughts on evaluation, but before doing that, I see that Mark has a question about if the toolkit is intended for community-based organizations or state level or both. And it really is built for all of those audiences. So there are tools that can help with training and capacity building at the state level. There are tools that could be used by a prevention worker at the local level. There are tools to help support professional evaluators that are looking to connect and coordinate with sexual violence preventionists. And I agree with Mark that adventures at the state and local level are all critical and very important and can look very different. So we are excited to see how folks can use the toolkit at different levels. It really was built with feedback from folks working from all of those sectors. So we've hoped to address most of those core questions that came up. And we'd love to get your feedback as you take a look to let us know how we're doing in that effort.
Thank you so much, Sally, for responding to that question. And so I think now, I promised everyone that there would be a lot of polls, and I wasn't lying. So I'm going to launch our next question for you, and this should hopefully pop up on your screen. And the question is, how can we use evaluation? And so you'll see there are 8, 9 possible responses, including measure the changes we help create, show us where we can improve, provide language to help us tell the story of our programs, method of practicing accountability to participants, community members, and funders to keep us on track, to help determine if the work is the most meaningful work and or the right work for the right people at the right time, participate in developing an evidence base for our work, and then everyone's favorite option, all of the above. And so I'm going to share the results, Sally, so you can get an idea of how folks are responding to this question. And so the majority of people who are responding are saying all of the above. And some folks are thinking that evaluation is the method of practicing accountability to participants, community members, and funders.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts on how we can use evaluation. The toolkit was constructed considering all of those methods. So we highlight approaches and data collection methods and ways of presenting information that would help programs and evaluators look at all of these. We do have some specific sections that really focus in on that method of practicing accountability, which I really think is critical for our social justice work. So thank you all for sharing your thoughts on that. And that was a great plant and lead-in for me to talk about the third section of the toolkit, which does focus on social justice. One thing that we learned and routinely heard as we were developing the toolkit was the need to ground evaluation work in social justice. Evaluation does not measure our social justice work. It does not just measure our social justice work. Depending on how we implement an evaluation, it can either help or hinder our progress towards the world we seek to create with our unique initiatives. This section of the toolkit includes examples from the field, information on evaluation and culture, training and capacity building activities, and tools on participatory evaluation methods. Throughout the toolkit, there are inspirational videos. They can include recorded webinars, video podcasts, or presentations. I want to highlight an example of a video inspiration that's included in this section of the toolkit, and it's the PreventConnect webinar recording with the Visioning Bear Circle Intertribal Coalition program, Walking in Balance with All of Our Relations, that is based on a circle process. This process involves participants sharing one at a time in response to quotes or information offered to the group by a facilitator, the circle keeper, who is also part of the circle. Evaluators were brought on board to evaluate the project, and they worked closely with the circle keeper to identify and implement an evaluation process. And this recording is sharing some of the lessons learned and the evaluation findings. So there are great resources and tools that we are trying to highlight throughout the toolkit. Some of them you may already be familiar with, and some might be new. Section 4 of the toolkit describes different paradigms and approaches to evaluation. Most of these approaches vary somewhat in their purpose or overarching theoretical basis, but in practice they draw from the same or similar methods for collecting data and answering evaluative questions. Having a general understanding of these different approaches to evaluation will help folks make informed decisions about the best approaches for their specific evaluation needs. The approaches that we highlight in the toolkit are empowerment evaluation, utilization-focused evaluation, transformative mixed methods evaluation, actionable evaluation, activity-based evaluation, participatory evaluation, developmental evaluation, and finally, principles-focused evaluation. Well, it'd be great to hear. Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, I was just going to say that that's a lot of different approaches that are covered in the toolkit. So I'm really interested, and I think, Sally, you would be interested too, in hearing from folks what evaluation approach are you most interested in learning more about from that list. And so again, hopefully this question has appeared on your screen. And so let us know, what evaluation approach from this toolkit do you want to learn more about? Is it empowerment evaluation, utilization focused, transformative mixed methods, actionable, activity-based, participatory, developmental, or principles focused? And I'm wondering if maybe folks aren't seeing this because no one is responding, or everyone just decided that this is not a question that they are interested in. Oh, now you do. Thanks, Tiffany. So good. Sorry, there might be a little bit of a lag. It is Friday for everyone, including my technology. So I'm going to share the results, Sally, so you can see what folks are talking about, because it looks like there's you know, a little bit of a majority interested in activity-based evaluation approach, but people are interested in all of these, which is exciting because they're all available.
Great. Well, as we're talking more and looking at other sections of the toolkit, if folks have specific questions about these different approaches, I'd love to see that in the chat. We might not have time to talk about all of these things during the forum, but it could be something that we can follow up with. So please share any specifics you have. Great. Well, let's keep going through sections of the toolkit. Part of the resource collection of the toolkit is a collection of worksheets and other tools that can assist you in planning for or implementing program evaluations. 18 beautiful new tools were created specifically for this toolkit with all of you in mind. And we also link to a variety of resources created by other organizations, some of which may have been created by organizations that you work with. So let's take a look at a tool to support participatory evaluation, just to provide an example. This is the tools, methods, and activities for participatory evaluation worksheet. In section 5, it provides an introduction on how to do evaluation, and, oops, sorry, I jumped ahead. This tool provides guiding questions for different phases of participatory evaluation. This is just the first page of the tool that you see on your screen. Tori's just added the direct link to the downloadable tool for you to see the full document. But it provides an opportunity to highlight tools, methods, and activities to assist evaluators at each stage of a participatory evaluation, whether that's planning, data collection, interpretation, and sharing of results. Many of the downloadable tools like this one guide users through activities, but also link them to other resources. I wanted to share a little bit about section 5 of the toolkit, which is called Doing Evaluation. And this section, as I mentioned before, provides an introduction of how to do evaluation and outlines general steps to take when conducting a program evaluation. It addresses who to include, when to do your evaluation, how to conduct an evaluation, and contains tips for success along the way. Context matters, of course, for evaluation, so this section really works best in partnership with the sections on evaluation approaches and social justice and evaluation. I find that when I'm doing evaluation work, I often work best when I can visualize the process, whether it is refining a logic model or mapping out a timeline. I'm often putting pen to paper. Here's an example of a resource from section 5 that might be useful to other people that are doing work that want help in visualizing their work. And this worksheet, called Mapping Your Evaluation System, provides a visual mapping tool to identify community members, partners, and other entities that might impact or be impacted by an evaluation process. You're likely to already be organizing discussions around these topics if you're doing evaluation work, and our hope is that the toolkit can save you some time by providing some ready-made resources. Section 6 of the toolkit is entitled Outcomes and Indicators. Outcomes are a critical part of program development and evaluation. There are evaluation models that don't require predetermined outcomes, and innovative program development models often do not involve pre-establishing specific outcomes and rather look for emerging outcomes. However, most of us will be involved in developing and implementing programs and evaluations that require some level of specificity around outcomes or what we hope to achieve with our efforts. Some of you I know are now working diligently on state or program level indicators. So I know folks are digging in pretty heavily in this topic right now. This section provides tools for understanding, number one, the purpose of your evaluation. Secondly, looking at how to focus your evaluation or determining what your focus is. and also looking at developing evaluation questions. As I mentioned earlier, providing practical tools is a goal of this toolkit. I want to take a look at a worksheet that's available in this section on outcomes and indicators. This worksheet defines outcomes and indicators and leads the user through a visioning process to develop SMART and what we're starting to call SMARTY goals, making sure that our outcomes and indicators are looking at equity and inclusion issues. So again, this is just the first page of the worksheet, and thanks to Tori for sharing the full link for folks who might want to take a look at the entire worksheet. Sections 7, 8, and 9 of the toolkit focus on data. The toolkit even provides some humor through cartoons throughout. We might have added a few extra ones in these 3 sections specific to data because I know we try to get into the weeds when we're looking at data issues. Section 7 focuses on data collection, 8 looks at data analysis, and Section 9 is dedicated to interpreting and communicating with data. Again, I want to highlight some of the resources that you can find in the data focus sections of the toolkit. This is the Identifying Data Options worksheet. It can help programs to identify potential sources of data for evaluation efforts. A really great element of the toolkit is that there is a corresponding tool to this worksheet to help map data sources to evaluation questions. So in many different sections, there'll be worksheets that will take you through step-by-step any evaluation process. So since you all are interacting with data in so many different ways, I thought we'd stop here, and I think Ashley has a question for the group.
Yeah, so we're actually going to turn to the text chat now, or as I mentioned earlier, if you are interested in coming onto the phone line with us, we're a small group, so we can certainly do that. Just let me know by clicking on your little hand icon. But we're interested in hearing from you about what are your favorite data hacks. And Sally, while we give people a little bit of time to answer or think about that question, what do you have any?
I don't know if I have any favorite ones right at the moment. That's one of the reasons why I want to hear what people have to say. But what I do love is some folks did come together in creating the toolkit to put together some of their favorite data hacks, and I can share a little bit about what I've learned from those folks.
That would be great.
Yeah. So one challenge that I hear regularly for people is that there is a survey fatigue that they have with folks that they're interacting with. So some of the data collection hacks that we put together for the toolkit includes just making a questionnaire into something more interactive, to not administer them in paper form, but even as simple as reading the statements aloud and having participants move to the room to indicate their answer choices. I think that's one of my one hack that I'm now, it's not even a hack anymore, it's just become kind of standard practice. And then there's another thing that I've been talking with some folks about that might already be on the forum, and that is using pictures as a way for, instead of words, for answering surveys and questions. So whether that be through using something like a photo voice approach or an adapted way to construct your questionnaire, your survey instrument in a way that kind of flips the script for people and kind of opens them up to different ways of communicating. So that's something that we've been talking a lot with folks already.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing those. And I think that those, you know, sometimes we get into the habit of thinking data has to be a certain way, and so it's nice to hear like creative ways that people are still collecting data that maybe fall outside of you know, kind of like the methods that we've been first taught. So I see, Sally, that Mark said data aggregation and transposition. Those are big words, Mark. So we'd love to hear from other folks. And Mark, if you want to hop on the phone and talk a little bit more about that, we certainly would love to hear from you and share what, you know, how that data aggregation and transposition have been helpful for you all. Or if you want to type it out, that's fine too. Well, we hope that other folks will share, you know, things that they've tried that have been really successful in collecting data. So continue to share those tips so we can learn from one another.
Great. I am excited that we're getting to use our brains on a what for me is a Friday afternoon. So thank you, Mark, for putting out your favorite hack, and I hope that we get to hear more as we continue chatting. As I mentioned, the toolkit also connects the user to high-quality tools from around the world. Here's an example from Evergreen Data. Stephanie Evergreen is a data visualization consultant who's authored 2 really excellent books on data visualization. Her website and blog are go-to places on the internet for me. They offer useful and free resources. Included here is a look at her qualitative chart chooser. So here's just an example of some of the tools that you can find that haven't been created by our training and TA partners, but some of our partners in evaluation outside of the field. Our evaluation conversations do not exist without a discussion of the social ecology. The prospect of evaluating beyond the individual and relationship levels of our work can seem really daunting, and I know that in the months that I've been back at the NSVRC, this has been a regular conversation that we've been having. So Section 10 of the toolkit puts this discussion on the map, I think, and provides questions to consider, resources to help us get to that place that we want to go, and it will continue to grow as we develop more tools around this area.
Great. So Sally, I see a hand raised, and it's from Mark.
Oh, great.
So Mark, if you want to come on the line, you can press *6 on your phone, and that will unmute you.
Hi, I think that was an accidental, no, it wasn't. Oh, apparently Mark wants me to talk about the data aggregation and transposition. This is Vera from Massachusetts.
Hi, Vera.
Hi, how are you?
I am well.
Oh, good, okay. Well, I have to admit that possibly because of my age, I wasn't quite sure what you meant by a data hack, and so I was saying to my colleagues that I like data aggregation and transposition, which I actually do like as data management strategies for some of the data that we collect. We collect a lot of data, and in the past it was individual level data. We're not going to be getting that anymore because, well, it's a long story, but we're not going to be getting that kind of data anymore. But it can be very helpful to use certain tools and data analysis packages that convert your individual level data into counts for you. And then we have other data that is in multiple lines, and there's also tools in data analysis packages to move some of the information or all the information up from multiple lines to a single line. And so that was what I was talking about. So.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm so glad that you and Mark can help us make the conversation as broad as possible, that these strategies that we use to really make our work doable and more effective can include changing up our process, or it might be using tools that help us gather information and also do that conversion piece. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm so glad that you're on the call with us today.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Well, kind of along those lines, if you're interested in the topic of moving evaluation beyond individual and relationship level changes, Vera was just talking about not collecting that individual level, but moving to other levels. There is a self-study guide focusing on this as a great starting point for folks that are coming in at the intermediate level into the toolkit. This particular guide includes up to 5 hours of online training options as well as in-person training opportunities. The focus of this plan is to help learners identify and describe methods for evaluating community, societal, and policy change efforts, and the similarities and differences between evaluating those individual changes and system-level changes. So I'm excited that we have this tool, and I bet a lot of people will probably jump in and take a look at it from this starting point. Section 11 is about evaluation capacity. I would say that the entire toolkit is about evaluation capacity, but this is really focusing in on individuals that are coming to the resource because they're wanting to do capacity building work. It looks at organizational capacity, practitioner level capacity. It provides access to evaluation capacity assessment tools. And again, that's for individual people, but also for organizations and systems. There are training tools and activities included, and also just some general tips for capacity building that were developed by folks who have done a lot of capacity building work themselves.
Great, Sally. So we haven't done an audience poll in a few minutes, so I think we should do another one. So I'm going to assume that there's going to be a little bit of a lag, but I'm asking you the question of how likely are you to use the self-study plan, particularly around evaluation beyond individual and relationship level changes. And I think that this information will be really useful to you all, Sally. Is that correct?
Very helpful.
Good. Well, the good news is then that it looks like the majority of folks are likely or very likely to use that self-study plan. I think it would be interesting for folks Actually on both sides. So either if you are likely to use it or not likely to use it, it would be helpful to know like what your thinking is behind that and why. So if you feel like putting that in the text chat, that would be great. If not, there will be an evaluation survey, and we'd love to hear some of that reasoning.
Oh, that would be great to hear. I think, and if there's anyone that's already taken a look at the toolkit, if you looked at this full study guide already and had any thoughts about it too, that would be great to share.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and take that away, and we'll go back to our slides.
Okay, great. As folks are sharing in the chat about the self-study guide, I thought it would be great to talk a little bit to the folks that are on the line that are trainers. Many of you might be responsible for training people on different evaluation topics. The toolkit includes training activities just for you. We hope that that will assist you in spreading the knowledge and skills you've gained about evaluation with other people. We even have a training slide deck. So I wanted to take a few minutes and give you a sense of what is included in that. So here you can see our slide deck. This collection of slides created in Microsoft PowerPoint accompanies the training and capacity building activities guide so that users can easily integrate the activities into their training materials. Available slides are indicated in the activity instructions by slide number so that folks, after downloading the slide deck and the guide, could quickly pull out a few slides. So my hope is that we continue adding to the slide deck as we move forward, but what's included right now are some very basic and general tools to help people get over the fear that often comes when thinking about evaluation, and just some general pieces about the value of evaluation. So we hope that these will be a good starting point for people. If you don't have time to create your own slides, you can use these, but they're also something that you can build on and adapt as well. Section 12 of the toolkit is a really interesting section. I've heard a lot of stories from people with an evaluative mindset and kind of approach to living, that sometimes evaluation comes into how they approach discussions at home with their loved ones. This comic from Fresh Spectrum pokes fun at that idea, with a father answering his daughter's questions about if he liked her picture by saying that he would have to create a rubric in order to be objective. The rubrics can speed up data collection and help reduce subjectivity, while also increasing the likelihood that everyone who collects the data would be looking for and recording approximately the same thing. So this section 12 of the toolkit discusses uses and examples and provides additional resources for further exploration. Other preventionists have used rubrics to assess facilitation skills of a person implementing education-based prevention programming. We highlight the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault and the Texas Council on Family Violence's tool activity-based evaluation assessment within the toolkit, because it also relies on a rubrics and other scoring tools to help with observational data collection. And it'd be great if folks have used some other tools or have used this one, feel free to share those in the chat too. And thank you, Tori, for sharing the full link to that resource in the chat. Section 3 reviews the benefits, drawbacks, and cautions when using existing measures. I know that there's a lot of different different discussion around measures. Let's check in a little bit about what's happening in your community.
Yeah, so we'd love to know from you all what existing measures you are using, or your recipients are using. I think, Sally, maybe one of the most common ones that I hear people use is the Illinois Rate Myth Acceptance Scale, but there are certainly other existing measures out there that folks are using for evaluation. So we'd love to hear in the text chat if you want to put that in there. Again, if you want to come on the phone and talk a little bit more about existing measures that are being used, feel free to click on that hand icon and we'll get you on the line. And we shall see what people are using. I know it's Friday. I know it's Friday afternoon. Sally, so Sarah is saying that they've been using the Rate Myth Acceptance for part of their evaluation, so thank you, Sarah. Are there any other existing measures that you all have been using? Let's see, here we go. So some folks are using evaluations from the curriculum as part of bringing in the bystanders, safe states. Angela says the 40 developmental assets evaluation from Search Institute for Youth Programming. So thank you all for providing these examples. Green Dot, the evaluation in Green Dot. Karen says pre and post tests, participatory system and community surveys. Sally, any reaction to what's coming up in the chat for folks? They're coming in hot and quick now.
I know. I'm trying to keep track of it. This is great. So I see folks with Green Dot evaluating risk and protective factors, behavioral health, economic stability. Definitely have seen a lot of folks use the 20 developmental assets. I would say, existing measures, they've undergone rigorous testing, and we know that so much hard work has gone into creating those, and using existing measures can really increase buy-in from other partners, community members, and especially with funders. Some of the drawbacks that we're seeing is not all measures that are widely used are actually found in the research to be actually valid and reliable, or even if they have been, they might, the biggest conversation I feel like I've been having folks is there may be great measures. They may even align with what the program is looking to do, but they might not be appropriate for the population that folks are working with. And the biggest thing around that is that the majority of the tools have been validated with college populations, but are often applied to work with younger populations. So there's a lot we still need to figure out and learn and do to have measures that fit some of the younger populations that we're working with. So I think we'll be continuing to look at that. The section of the toolkit provides some additional, things to consider. So I would say when you're starting to look at measures or you're doing a review, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to take a look at this section. We'll be adding to it as new research becomes available. And ultimately, maybe with your help, we can kind of have more of a chart of what folks are using and the populations that they're using them with, that hopefully will get us to some more consistency. Oh, and the issue of climate surveys, yes. I see that a lot of folks have added around that. So yes, this is we'll have to have a whole nother forum probably just to talk about measures.
Yeah.
I know I'm almost at my time.
I think you have yep, you have plenty of time, Sally.
Okay.
We definitely want to hear about the other sections.
Yeah, section 14 is a section focused on some ways that you can make questionnaires more interactive. Researchers have found, and I think that many of us have experienced, that making questionnaires more interactive increases participant engagement. And you know what? As an instructor or an evaluator, it makes it a lot more enjoyable for me personally too. So this section explores some approaches to doing that, and again, we'll look to expand that, hopefully learning from what you all are doing. Section 15 looks at working with external evaluators, colleges, and universities. In the opening of her book, Transformative Research and Evaluation, Donna Mertens explains the difference between research and evaluation in this way, that research is defined as a systematic method of knowledge construction, and evaluation is defined as a systematic method of determining the merit, the worth, or value of a program, policy, activity, technology, or similar entity to inform decision-making about those entities. A lot of what we hear from folks that are collaborating with researchers, evaluators, colleges, and universities is about this conversation and coming to agreement about the difference between research and evaluation. This section of the toolkit looks at how to create good partnerships with external evaluators, and also helps people by the sharing of a case study. So the final type of resource that we use a lot throughout the toolkit is the use of examples and case studies. Examples are really woven throughout. There are a couple main case studies that are referred to in different sections, but also in the downloadable activities for folks to use. I'll talk a little bit more about case studies in the final section. I do want to mention that section 16 is about doing evaluation with minimal resources. For those of us that have limited time, money, and or staffing, this section provides some basic guidance and tools about how to approach evaluation if that is your particular situation, which we know for most people that is their particular situation. And then finally, the final section, 17 of the toolkit, includes this small collection of case studies. As I mentioned before, we're looking to add more and would love if folks have case studies they would like to submit to us. But that concludes the highlights from each section of the toolkit. And while we haven't had time to see all of the content, I thought this would be a good point to do a check-in, check out the text chat, and turn it over to Ashley for a second.
Thank you, Sally. So a couple things. we are really interested in hearing from you all. Now, I realize that we just went through 17 sections, and so you may not even remember what all of those sections are. But, you know, as Sally went through and shared some highlights on these different topics, were there things that you felt that were missing, that you would like to see added to the toolkit? You can also expand this question to, you know, what areas are you feeling like you want to go look at right now? Is there something that's really like piquing your interest that you think would be most useful to you? We'd love to know that. So once again, feel free to let us know in the text chat, raise your hand, come on the phone with us. It's great to see. It looks like Mark and Katie are talking about some tools for looking at school climate in middle and high school. So it's great to see that sharing happening. Let's see. So Tiffany is saying that it would be really useful to have some case studies of how people have done evaluations at the outer levels. The social ecology model, yes. Sally, are there plans for that? What is your thinking around that? It's not really a question, a need, I would say.
Yeah, it is a huge need. I think that we might have one in the works that we're looking at. I know that there is a lot of training and technical assistance that we're going to be doing over the next year specific to these issues. I think as we have more people moving more to community level work, that we will have more opportunities to highlight lessons learned through some case studies. So if folks can kind of, you know, stick a pin in this question and think about, as you're doing work, if you have any stories, case studies you'd like to share with us, we would love to work on ways to add them either through we're looking to add some interactive e-learning courses as well as short video segments as complements to the toolkit. So this would be a great area where we could partner with some of you to get some more information on this particular topic integrated into the toolkit.
Yeah. And Sally, I think that's one of the things that's so great about this toolkit is that it really is going to be, you know, something that is expanding over time, that it's really like a living tool, right? Am I right to say that?
It is. It is not meant to be a static tool. Things are moving and developing in our field in new ways all the time. And so we want to work with all of you to keep the toolkit fresh and connected. So there are lots of opportunities for folks to submit either tools that you have created or resources that you are using on a regular basis that you think other folks would find valuable. We're going to have lots of opportunities at the RPE leadership training to talk, and through other forums and through the NSVRC's online space for the RPE project to be able to get regular content infused. So we really want to make sure that it continues to grow as we continue to learn more. And that's why folks taking the time to take a look and let us know what they think is missing, or a great tool that they think we should review for considered inclusion would be fantastic.
Great. And Sally, I see that Julie from Oregon said that really interested in outcomes and indicators and also looking at some of those more interactive ways of collecting data. So that seems to be an area of interest. And then Marissa said it would be helpful to include options for perpetration behavior measures via a single question or two questions. We often don't have room on our state level surveys for an entire scale like the rate myth acceptance scale.
Okay.
Another consideration. Thank you, Marissa.
Yes, thank you so much.
Great. So, Sally, I think, you know, hopefully folks in our audience, as more things are coming up, please feel free to put them in the text chat. We do keep these text chats, as you know. They're a really helpful source of information, not only for us, but also for you all. Let's see, Ryan has a question. What are some out-of-the-box sources of data where there is a dearth of resources and data? So, Sally,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I would love for folks to share in the chat what they think. Something that actually I'm going to be sending out to folks soon via email. It isn't in the toolkit yet, but it will be something soon we'll be able to add is tapping into the syndromic surveillance information collected through Essence, which looks at emerging issues through through emergency departments and other emergency services. And they've recently created a sexual violence specific query, and they're looking for RPE partners at health departments that would be willing to test out this new query and provide some feedback back to the CDC on how we can make adjustments to the query. And then they're also taking a first step into looking at developing a query for IPV issues and for issues around suicide. So there are some new things developing, and once there's been a revision to the sexual violence query, that will be something that we'll be able to add to the toolkit.
That's exciting. Thanks, Sally.
Yeah. So that's great, Brian, that we continue to expand and add to those out-of-the-box sources. I know we collected a lot of information recently at a meeting with RPE directors, and we'll continue to have some discussions at NSAC, and I bet after that we will have a treasure trove of new ideas that we can start adding to the toolkit.
There continue to be some really wonderful suggestions coming up in the text chat, so really appreciative to you all for sharing. And as you have a chance to better kind of click around the toolkit and see exactly for yourself what is included in there, you know, as more things come up, we'd love to continue hearing this. You know, Sally, I know you're going to provide your contact information, and folks are also welcome to reach out to me, and I can make that connection as well.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. We definitely want this to be a continued conversation. Like I said, feedback from all of you help create the toolkit, and that's what's going to help make it even more relevant to your day-to-day work.
So, Sally, I know that you have, back to this idea of choose your own evaluation adventure, you have created some possible paths for the different levels of experience, and I would love for you to talk us through that.
Great. Yes, I love the setup of the toolkit in that you can choose multiple pathways through it. I tried to create a graphic that could actually show every single path. I don't know if you've seen the Choose Your Own Adventure series. There are infographics that actually show absolutely all the paths for every choice that could be made through some of those books. It was impossible for me to be able to develop a graph that could show all of those paths. So I've picked 3 options, especially for someone who might feel kind of overwhelmed. It's a lot of information. There are, 17 sections. There are links and resources within each section. It's going to continue to grow, so it can be a little bit big to think about. So I started looking at it from the viewpoint of different users and experience levels. So I've got 3 paths I want to share briefly as a potential starting point for someone who maybe just wants a place to start, but maybe isn't interested in starting right from the beginning and going all of the way through. If you've got, an hour, here are some examples to get you started. So in looking at a possible beginner path, I think it is a good idea to start right with the introduction, that first section. And within the introduction, the first study guide that is discussed is a study guide, which is a basic introduction to evaluation. And that is that, less than 10 hours that could be invested either by an individual or maybe a group. If there's a new partnership of people that are looking at how they want to structure their evaluations, this would be a potential pathway for them. And within that, one of the tools is an interactive course on evaluation basics. So again, you can do some reading, you can do some charting of your goals and checklists, and then jump into an online learning course. From there, I think going to the evaluation overview section would be a wonderful path, and then continuing on to the evaluation and social justice video inspirations. There are a variety included there. Some are short with 10 minutes to some that are an hour long. So lots for a beginner to take a look at and help, just start the juices flowing around what is interesting to them about evaluation. And then I think starting to browse through the different evaluation approaches and orientations and being able to compare them to what's the philosophy of the organization or the project or the group that you're looking to do evaluation work with. So that's an option for a beginner path. For an intermediate path, which so many of you identified as being part of, it might be worthwhile to jump in with the data section. So starting with the data collection section, again, there's a self-study guide looking at qualitative evaluation. That might be a good option, and that can lead you to a coffee break series from the American Evaluation Association, again, that you could view on your own or view as a group with other people to continue the dialogue. After that, then I think it's a seamless move into the analyzing data section and looking at the different tools specifically around activity-based evaluation tools. And lastly, here's an option for someone coming in with lots of experience with evaluation, someone who might not need that introductory information. Here's a recommended path to start by coming into the evaluation capacity building section. Going through the capacity assessments, the individual assessments I think are just as valuable as the organizational ones. For an experienced evaluator, I think doing a regular assessment of your strengths and areas of improvement is a great way to start engaging with the toolkit. Again, there are a variety of study guides that we talk about through that capacity building section. And then it may be likely, maybe you've done a lot of evaluation work, but perhaps you haven't trained or educated others about evaluation yet. It might be a great path to then move into the training and capacity building activities. There are specific ones listed right within the capacity building section of the toolkit. That includes the activity guide and would bring you right to that training slide deck that we looked at earlier. So there are some possible paths, but again, I don't think I could even write down on paper all of the different ways that someone may weave themselves through all of the great resources that are included in this. I wanted to share a little bit and then hear from you about ways that we are hoping the toolkit will support your capacity building efforts. I'm a little bit of a broken record, but I really think the self-study plans are valuable, useful, and really practical. I do think they can be used by individuals, but also I've worked with some folks already talking about how to use them to set up study groups to do some team capacity building. There are also a variety of reading and resource lists that can help you. I think each type of evaluation approach, some people spend entire PhD programs looking at just one approach. So there are opportunities where the toolkit can lead you to even more detailed information and resources about different evaluation approaches. The training tips, tools, and activities were written by preventionists for preventionists. They include guidance and instruction materials, as well as ready-made documents to use within training. So we're hoping that for those that might be new to training or maybe have been doing a lot of training and want to infuse their training with something new, that these ready-made materials will help you invigorate training that you're doing. And then another thing for folks to know, whenever there was a priority put on including free or low-cost resources and materials whenever possible throughout the toolkit, we've also done this in looking at online training options. So at each section will connect people to where they can go to find online trainings. We're also looking and working with PreventConnect. We'll be doing some additional trainings based on toolkit topics, and a lot of the things that folks bring up as priorities here and in follow-ups. So these are just some ways that we're thinking that you might use the toolkit, but we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, so thank you, Sally. We would love to hear how you think you would use the toolkit for capacity building. And Sally, you gave some really great examples of ways that people could possibly use it, whether it's self-study plans or creating some reading and resource lists or all of those training resources. But we'd love to hear from you all. I think this might also be a nice time if there are any other just general questions about what has been presented today. As Sally said, this is really meant to be an overview to walk you through it, to share what this toolkit consists of, and then to hear kind of like your initial reactions to it. But we will be looking to do some deeper dives into the topic areas and the areas that you're really interested in, things that you think should be added or expanded upon. But we'd love to hear from you if you have any thoughts. We have a couple minutes left, and you are welcome. If you'd rather just hop on and talk to us, you can certainly do that as well. But Sally, I think, while we see if there's anything coming up for folks, you were going to talk about, I think this is on your next slide, how we can connect our evaluation tools, because there is a lot of evaluation going on, and there are a lot of tools that people are using. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I would. We are looking to link to your evaluation tools. You can submit either a tool you've created or a tool that has become, a center of your evaluation work to me at SelfStudy@nsvrc.org. We're going to be doing a formal annual review for inclusion. Depending on the amount of resources coming in, we may do that review even more frequently. But please don't hesitate to give me a call at the NSVRC or email me if you have something that you would like to share, and then we'll get our review team working on looking through. And especially if you have a specific, if you're looking in an area of the toolkit and think, oh, this is something I use every day on this topic, it's helpful if you want to share where you think it would be helpful to add it as well. But we're open to any and all opportunities for expanding the resources that we include in the toolkit.
Great. And Sally, Marissa has said that the toolkit was recently sent out to their statewide prevention network and planning on sharing it at meetings as well. Let's see, Sarah said, I really like the self-guided nature of the toolkit, and we'll definitely be exploring it more and sharing with the state coalition. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities in here for more of that shared learning, across the state, just through all of the different places to explore in the toolkit. And, I think this is something, I think you mentioned it at the beginning, Sally, that we've been hearing about the toolkit for quite a while from Jen Grove. And so now to see it all and be walked through it, it totally makes sense why, it's been such kind of a labor of love. So it'll be exciting to hear more as people use it and share it, what the response is, and really like the utility that people are finding from the toolkit.
Yes, it's so nice for it to be real and concrete now. And I really would, as someone who's now read the toolkit many, many times from the first word to the last, I would not recommend people do this alone. I think you could get lost in it. It could really suck you in for maybe more time than you actually have. So taking a buddy with you through the toolkit is one of my recommendations. If you can do it with a group, even better. But I would love to hear how folks might be using it with others in their community. Oh, and I see that there is a broken link. I will fix that. I love that specific Tri-Ethnic Center guide is something I use pretty much every week, so they must have just changed their link. I will fix that. Thank you, Karen, for letting us know.
Yeah, and we will find that link and also get it out to folks. Thank you, Karen. So we're heading to the last very few minutes of our web conference, but I am just very appreciative, Sally, of you giving us this tour, walking us through this adventure of this new, what looks to be a really important resource, a really valuable addition to what we have in our toolbox. So I just want to thank you and give you a moment for any kind of last-minute thoughts or requests from folks.
Oh, my big, heart ask is take a look at it. And if you have a moment, let us know what resonates for you and what your needs are. Our assistance doesn't end with the toolkit. We actually hope that it will be the beginning for deeper conversations to have with us. If you just want to talk about a page that you're looking at on the toolkit, please call me or email me, and I'll sit there and walk through it. I'll listen to thoughts you have about it, and if the toolkit isn't answering your questions, we'll get our team together to try to fill out any gaps that there still might be.
Great. And Sally, Julie's asking if there's a session at NSAC on the toolkit.
We're going to be providing information at the RPE leadership training. There is not a session on the toolkit during NSAC. Not this year, yeah.
But stay tuned because we will be doing more with it. Thank you so much, Sally, again. I want to thank my colleague here at PreventConnect, Tori, for keeping those links flowing for all of us. And of course, thank you all for joining us on a Friday to go through this and to share your thoughts and insights into this new resource from NSVRC. I am going to leave you here and just, again, let you know, have a wonderful rest of your Friday. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon, I hope. This concludes our Peer Learning Forum session for today.